Tonight, when the lights go off, you are going to feel it. That small flicker of unease as the room goes dark. Your eyes will scan the corners before you even realize they are doing it. You will tell yourself there is nothing there, but some part of your brain will not believe you. Here is the strange part. This exact feeling shows up everywhere. In every country, in every era, in every culture that has ever existed. People who never met each other. People separated by oceans and thousands of years. All of them invented the same nightmare. Something that lurks in the dark. Something that mimics a human voice to lure you closer. Something that steals children in the night. These are not local legends. They are global patterns. And the real answer for why is far stranger than folklore. Ancient Egyptians feared Apep, a serpent of chaos that attacked the sun as it traveled through the underworld at night. Ancient Numidians told stories of spirits that wandered after dark and led travelers astray. Ancient Romans spoke of the lemures, restless spirits that crept through homes once the sun went down. 3 unrelated civilizations, 3 versions of the same fear. None of them borrowed the idea from each other. They arrived at it independently. This pattern repeats far beyond the ancient Mediterranean. In West Africa, stories warned of spirits that called your name in a familiar voice to draw you into the forest at night. In Scandinavia, the Huldra lured travelers off the path with a beautiful face and a hollow back. In Japan, yokai haunted the edges of villages once darkness fell. In the Philippines, the aswang disguised itself as someone you trusted. In the Andes, the pistaco stalked lone travelers on mountain roads after dusk. In the swamps of the American South, stories of the rougarou warned children not to stray from the porch light. Different continents, different languages, different gods. The same basic nightmare, over and over again. Look closely at these stories, and a pattern emerges that is too consistent to be coincidence. The monster almost never attacks in daylight. The monster almost always mimics something familiar, a voice, a face, a shape, before revealing what it really is. The monster almost always targets those who wander away from the group. 3 rules, repeated across thousands of unrelated cultures, as if every civilization on Earth had somehow read the same manual and never told each other. Why would isolated societies, with no contact and no shared history, keep inventing the same monster? The answer does not begin with imagination. It begins with survival. For most of human history, your ancestors were not the most dangerous animal on the savannah. They were prey. Big cats hunted at night, snakes struck without warning from the grass. Predators used stealth, darkness, and mimicry to get close before you could react. A human who ignored a rustle in the bushes did not get a second chance. A human who froze at the wrong moment did not pass on their genes. Researcher Lynne Isbell, a primatologist who studies the evolutionary relationship between primates and snakes, proposed something called the snake detection theory. She argued that snakes were one of the earliest and most consistent predators of primates, and that this pressure shaped the primate visual system itself. Her research found that primates, including humans, are unusually fast at spotting snake-like shapes, even in cluttered scenes, even before conscious awareness catches up. Your brain built a shortcut. See the shape, react first, think later. This is not just about snakes. It is about a much broader survival circuit. Vigilance in the dark, suspicion of unfamiliar shapes, instant fear at the sound of something that sounds almost human, but not quite. This circuitry did not disappear when your ancestors stopped sleeping in trees. It is still running in your skull right now. Consider what night actually meant for most of human history. No electric light, no locked doors, no street lamps, just firelight. And beyond it, absolute darkness that could hide anything. Big cats, such as leopards, were known to specifically target hominins during sleep, dragging prey from camps under cover of night. A predator that attacks while you are unconscious does not need to be faster than you. It only needs you to stay asleep a few seconds too long. So the humans who slept lightly, who startled at unfamiliar sounds, who kept one part of their mind on guard even in rest, were the ones who woke up in time. That trait did not vanish once the last leopard left. It got inherited, generation after generation, right down to you. Psychologist Randolph Nesse, who helped pioneer the field of evolutionary psychology applied to emotion, described fear as a smoke detector. Not a perfectly accurate one, a cautious one. Nesse argued that natural selection favors a smoke detector that goes off too often over one that stays silent during a real fire. A false alarm costs you a moment of unnecessary panic. A missed threat costs you your life. So evolution built you to overreact every single time. This is why a floorboard creak at 2 a.m. can feel like a threat, even though you know, logically, that it is probably just the house settling. Your ancestors who assumed the worst and checked twice survived more often than the ones who assumed the best and rolled over. You are descended from the anxious ones, not the calm ones. Now bring folklore back into the picture. Before science existed to explain nerve systems and predator detection, humans still needed a way to communicate danger, a way to teach children to stay near the fire, a way to warn travelers not to wander alone at night. Stories did that job. A monster in the dark is not just a scary tale. It is a survival manual wrapped in narrative. It encodes a real, evolved fear into a form that a 5-year-old can understand and remember. This explains why the monsters look so similar across unrelated cultures, even without contact. The Slavic leshy, the Yoruba egg beret, the Aboriginal Australian bunyip, the Mesoamerican cadejo. Different names, different appearances, nearly identical function. Something that exists at the edge of visibility. Something that behaves almost, but not quite, like something safe. Something that punishes wandering too far from the group after dark. Notice something else these stories share. They are almost always taught to children first. A grandmother warning a child not to go past the tree line. A parent telling a story about a creature that takes kids who stay out too late. This is not cruelty. It is efficient teaching. A logical explanation about predator statistics means nothing to a 5-year-old. A vivid story about a creature in the dark sticks immediately, and it sticks for life. Cultures that told these stories raised children who were more cautious after sunset. Cultures that skipped the stories, if any ever did, left fewer descendants to keep skipping them. Anthropologist Michael Winkelman, who studies cross-cultural patterns in folklore and ritual, has argued that many supernatural belief systems across the world independently converge on similar themes because they are rooted in shared human cognitive architecture, not shared cultural transmission. In other words, the monsters are not copying each other. They are all copying the same brain. There is a twist hiding inside all of this. The fear you feel is not irrational. It is not a glitch. It is not something broken in you. It is a working piece of ancient machinery, doing exactly the job it was built to do, thousands of generations after the original threat mattered. You do not need to outrun a nocturnal predator tonight, but the part of your brain that once needed to has not gotten the memo. It still checks the dark. It still listens for footsteps. It still tenses at a voice that sounds slightly wrong. This is also why horror as an art form works at all. Directors did not invent this fear. They just learned how to trigger it on command. A shape at the edge of frame. A voice that mimics someone familiar but slightly off. A creature that moves almost like a person, but not quite. Every effective horror trope is, underneath the surface, a recreation of the exact predator cues your ancestors evolved to detect. The genre did not create a new fear. It found the oldest one you have and pointed a camera at it. Think about the last time a movie made you flinch. It was probably not the monster's design. It was the moment right before you saw it. The silence, the stillness, the sense that something was watching from somewhere you could not quite see. That is not a modern invention. That is 50,000 years of night watch compressed into 90 minutes. This is also why certain sounds unsettle you more than others, regardless of language or culture. A voice calling your name from an empty room. Footsteps that stop the instant you turn around. A child humming somewhere it should not be. These tropes recur endlessly in horror media worldwide because they tap directly into the mimicry fear that folklore encoded thousands of years earlier. The monster that sounds almost human, but not quite, is not a new idea invented by a screenwriter. It is one of the oldest fears your species has ever carried, simply given a modern budget and a sound department. Even video games exploit this same circuitry with remarkable precision. Enemies that appear only at the edge of the player's flashlight beam, sound design that grows louder as something invisible gets closer, environments that go suspiciously, unnaturally quiet right before danger. None of this is new psychology. It is old psychology wearing new packaging. Now think about your own closet door, your own basement stairs, the corner of your bedroom you avoid looking at directly after midnight. None of that is silly. None of that is something to be embarrassed about. It is proof that your nervous system is doing exactly what kept your ancestors alive long enough to have you. There is something almost comforting hidden inside this. You are not alone in this fear, and you never have been. Every human who has ever lived in every century on every continent has felt some version of this exact unease once the light disappeared. The Egyptian priest guarding the temple at night felt it. The Roman farmer bolting his door felt it. The child in Scandinavia, listening for the Huldra's voice in the trees, felt it. You are simply the newest name on a very long list, connected to every person who came before you by the same nervous system, reacting to the same darkness in the same ancient way. That is the part most people miss when they dismiss fear of the dark as childish. It is not childish. It is ancestral. It is a message passed down through hundreds of thousands of years, encoded first in instinct, then in story, then eventually in film and folklore, all saying the exact same thing. Stay close. Stay alert. Do not wander alone into what you cannot see. So tonight, when the lights go off and that flicker of unease creeps in, you will understand something most people never stop to consider. You are not scared of nothing. You are scared of everything your ancestors were right to fear, running on hardware that has not been updated in a very long time. The monster was never really under the bed. It was always the shape of a fear so old, it built the very brain you were using to read these words.